It began with a statement so bold, it ripped through the core of hip-hop's most sacred legacies. Jim Jones, standing tall on a podcast, declared himself not just relevant, but more important to the culture than Nas. The words barely left his lips before the tremors began. This wasn't just a casual jab. It was a gauntlet thrown directly at a titan, and the ripple effect was instant. In the shadows, a puppet master was already at play. 50 Cent didn't need a diss track or a direct name drop. He simply posted an old federal transcript on Instagram, letting the internet's insatiable hunger for drama do the rest. Suddenly, old wiretaps resurfaced, grainy clips from the past became viral sensations, and Jim was caught on camera, seemingly spiraling, dropping tracks like he was prepping for hard time. But make no mistake, this wasn't just about Nas, and it was certainly more than a clash of rap egos. This felt like 50 Cent's chilling message to the entire industry. Never forget who holds the real power, and perhaps a not-so-subtle whisper about why some figures always seem to avoid federal heat. Jim might have aimed for a flex, but he opened a door that could unleash a storm from every direction. The tension between Jim Jones and Nas is anything but new. It's a rivalry with roots stretching back to 2002. That's when Nas, out of nowhere, went off on Hot 97, randomly dismissing Cameron's album as whack, without a shred of explanation. That one moment lit a fuse, and Dipset, led by a fired-up Jim Jones, came out swinging. What followed was a messy, relentless exchange of jabs through mixtapes, an open season where respect was a foreign concept. Jim made it deeply personal, famously threatening to smack the KOFY off Nas, and embedding that raw energy into tracks like the chart-topping We Fly High. But here's where the story takes a surprising turn. Just a year ago, Jim Jones was publicly showering Nas with adoration, expressing a deep desire to simply sit down and have a conversation with him. He even called Nas one of his all-time favorite rappers, praising him for pioneering the dope boy rap, crack hustler, get fresh rap. That genuine admiration, however, morphed into outright shade at a dizzying speed. Everything flipped the moment Jim Jones stepped onto Fat Joe and Jadakiss's podcast. Fat Joe, ever the master provocateur, expertly stirred the pot, mentioning a young fan who compared Jim to Nas, highlighting Jim's influence on street style. This seemingly innocuous comment, one that could have easily been dismissed, became the catalyst for Jim's monumental shift. He didn't just let it slide, he leaned into it. Jim recounted how Nas was his childhood idol, how he admired his dressing, his wordplay, his entire musical aesthetic. But then, he dropped a bombshell. As he rose in the game, his idols became his rivals. With an almost casual confidence, he proclaimed that while he never takes away from Nas's legendary status, he had developed his own distinct style, one that a new generation of kids gravitated towards, the same way he once gravitated toward Nas. And then came the wildest take in recent hip-hop memory. Jim didn't just say he was more relevant, he flat-out claimed he was more influential than Nas. The internet paused. We're talking about Nas, the lyrical titan from Queensbridge, the architect of Illmatic, the voice behind God's Son and the King's Disease series, a man still selling out Madison Square Garden in his 50s. Yet, Jim didn't flinch. He stood firm, 10 toes down, on his audacious statement. That interview didn't just stir the pot, it flipped the whole thing, ignited it, and left the flames roaring for all to see. Just as the smoke from that initial interview hadn't even cleared, Jim Jones appeared on another platform, Shannon Sharpe's Nightcap, with Chad Okosinko-Johnson. Ostensibly there to clarify his earlier remarks, Jim instead poured gasoline on the raging fire. He doubled down, emphasizing his individual impact. Me, Jim Jones. No diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. Check my track record, then check everybody else's track record. Shannon, never one to shy away from a challenge, immediately pressed him. What Jim said next made viewers rewind, questioning if they heard him right. He wasn't done comparing careers. He delved back into the old Dipset versus Nas beef from the early 2000s, reiterating his claim that he had surpassed Nas in terms of impact. He even tried to give Nas props for his fashion sense, calling him one of the flyest in the game, but he consistently circled back to one provocative point. Nas simply doesn't influence the streets like he does. The tension reached a fever pitch when Jim, seemingly agitated, started clowning Shannon Sharpe's outfit on air, while Akasinko sat back and watched the grudge match unfold. The segment then took a truly wild turn. Mid-discussion about Nas and rap legends, Jim accused Shannon of only inviting him for clicks, and that lit a fuse. "This the biggest podcast you ever been on," Shannon snapped back, transforming from cool host to full-blown opponent. If Jim wanted smoke, Shannon was ready to take it to the gym and settle it with reps. Instead of firing back at 50, Jim tried to pivot, making the whole thing a gym war, a desperate attempt to prove dominance in some arena. While Jim was sweating it out on camera, 50 Cent had already made his next quiet, devastating move. That one label, Individual One, lingered heavily in the background, ready to shake things up all over again. Meanwhile, the comment sections exploded. Fans lost their minds seeing a retired NFL Hall of Famer championing Nas. One fan remarked, "Shannon did what Fat Joe and Jada should have done." "Jones, you delusional." "Shannon, thank you for bringing it up." And they had a point. Why were Fat Joe and Jadakiss so quiet during that first interview? As all this public drama unfolded, 50 Cent remained posted in the shadows observing. But don't get it twisted. He wasn't laughing. Not yet. Just when folks thought the spectacle might be dying down, it took a truly petty turn. Fans unearthed an old clip that made jaws drop again. It was a 2015 Breakfast Club interview where Nas, when asked about Jim Jones, subtly but brutally dismissed him. The real disrespect wasn't a clapback. It was Nas's utter silence, the implication that Jim was beneath a response. He was laughed off the stage then, and now, in 2025, that same chilling energy had returned. But it didn't end there. While Nas maintained his cool and Shannon continued to get more ripped by the day, someone else was lurking. The second 50 Cent heard Jim claim superiority over Nas, he didn't even blink. He simply laughed, then delved into his bottomless vault of receipts and pulled out a straight-up bombshell. He revived one of hip-hop's most controversial rumors, labeling Jim as Individual One. That single caption sent the internet into a frenzy because if you know, you know. Individual One wasn't just a nickname. It was a federal code name pulled directly from the Tekashi 6ix9ine wiretap during the infamous 2018 9 Trey case. During Tekashi 6ix9ine INE's trial, prosecutors played a phone call they claimed featured Jim Jones. While he wasn't explicitly named, he was labeled Individual One. In that call, someone was allegedly instructing gang members to violate Tekashi for cooperating. Jim's voice was never officially confirmed in court, and he was never hit with charges, but that didn't matter to the blogs or the streets. And it certainly didn't matter to 50 Cent, who never forgot that moment. So now, with Jim puffing his chest out on podcasts and attempting to bait Nas into a battle, 50 saw his perfect opening to remind everyone of the true pecking order. He dove deep into his Instagram vault, reposting a meme he had once quickly deleted, the one that had people whispering. So that's why they ain't pull him in. Flashback to 2019. The Shade Room posted an update from Tekashi's court case, and a verified courtroom reporter stated Tekashi named Jim Jones as a 9 Trey member. 50 couldn't resist. He jumped into the comments, followed by that now infamous clip of him looking genuinely spooked, feigning trembling, and declaring, "I'm afraid for my life. I mean, Jimmy is gang gang. I'm hiding out in Texas." The internet died laughing as Jim fumed. Here's where things truly shift. This whole beef didn't even start with Nas. 50 Cent has been throwing shots at Jim for years. This new moment simply gave him the green light to drag Jim all over again. Recall 2007, when 50 brought Jim Jones and Joel Santana on stage at a G-Unit show, even as Dipset was visibly crumbling from within. That move was pure, unadulterated disrespect. Cameron saw it for what it was, especially with Dipset's internal drama spilling into public view. By 2019, it came full circle. During Tekashi's federal trial, Jim Jones received that haunting label, Individual One, in a wiretap phone call that continues to shake hip-hop years later. Prosecutors played that wiretap in open court, even though Jim was never officially charged. But the name stuck, Individual One, and the internet ran wild with snitching rumors, blogs, memes, and Reddit threads. It was everywhere. Jim saw every single one of 50's posts, and at first, he remained silent. Then, boom, Jim clapped back with a classic Bird Gang era throwback photo, dripping in full Dipset nostalgia. The caption, "Why you keep lying? LOL. I'm going back to sleep. Free Mel Matrix, till it's reversed." That shout-out to his longtime homie, locked up for over 11 years on racketeering charges, was strategic. It wasn't just love, it was a jab, a way of implying that 50 was pushing a fabricated narrative. But Jim wasn't done. He followed up with a Jim Flex post, the caption loaded with smoke. "Somebody tell Shannon Sharpe, don't start ducking this challenge now. Go and talk like a podcaster, or go and walk what you talk 'cause my sneaker's tied." He added, "You already challenged me in front of the world. Might as well finish the job." While 50 was still trolling from the sidelines, Jim was lacing up like he was heading straight into battle. Just when people thought he might ease up, Jim posted another dagger. "If you 40 and up arguing with me about Nas, you already lost." This wasn't just rap talk anymore. It was generational smoke, Jim smoke, street smoke, all at once. "You fell for the bait," Jim posted as his stream numbers climbed like clockwork. Every time the Mel Matrix saga went viral, his numbers surged, and he reveled in it. Jim used the moment to lecture the older generation, accusing them of being stuck in the past. "Y'all mad at how things run today? Tighten up." That line hit hard for some, but the real heat came in his caption. "I said what I said. P.S. I'll wrap circles around any artist from my era. Whoever dares step in the booth, bring some money with you." This game ain't free. He wasn't just flexing, he was throwing down a challenge to anyone from his generation who believed they still had it. "We outside in the field. Take that how you want, but we working every day." Meanwhile, Nas remained radio silent, watching the circus from a distance, calm, unbothered. But Jim kept baiting, kept talking, still calling himself more influential. And that's why fans are getting louder. Some are saying that if Nas ever did respond, it wouldn't be just a diss. It would be a lyrical execution. "Jim, you're only 3 years apart from Nas, and he's simply murdering you in terms of discography and impact." When fans are asked to compare stats, Jim's contributions are limited to a couple songs. But Nas? He's been consistently dropping acclaimed projects since 2018. While Jim is throwing punches into the air, hoping to land one, Nas is keeping his cool. And 50? He's still lurking in the shadows, pulling strings like the ultimate puppet master. Just when you thought it might finally cool down, Jim popped back up, this time with a cryptic post showing stacks of cash, a mic, and a caption that read, "Y'all still talking. I'm still cashing." Fans couldn't tell if he was flexing or ducking, but either way, the message was clear. He's not backing off this wave anytime soon. But here's the thing. People aren't letting it slide anymore. Blogs started reposting old freestyle battles, pulling receipts from every corner of the culture, asking, "Is Jim really that influential?" Some fans are riding with him, crediting him with changing streetwear and bringing gritty Harlem swagger to the forefront. But others are calling cap, claiming he's rewriting history to chase clout. At the same time, industry insiders began whispering that Nas might actually be in the studio just in case. Not for drama, but to quietly remind folks why he's still considered top tier, a quiet power move. And while Jim's on Instagram dropping one-liners and gym selfies, 50 Cent is getting even pettier. He liked a post that said, "Imagine losing a battle no one agreed to be in." Then unfollowed Jim again for the 3rd time in 2 years. So now we're here. Jim's shadowboxing, Nas is locked in, and 50's got popcorn in one hand and a burner phone in the other. Nobody knows who's really about to make the next move, but it's clear the smoke hasn't settled yet. If that unreleased wiretap truly exists, Jim might have just talked himself into way more than a diss track. While he's out here rapping, flexing, and challenging anybody with a pulse, 50's been way too quiet. And when 50 goes silent, that's when the bomb drops. We've seen it before. He doesn't yell, he executes, with no warning, no mercy. So now the whole game is holding its breath. Will Nas finally step out of the shadows and shut this down with a few deadly bars? Or will 50 let the streets eat, waiting until Jim gets truly comfortable before dropping that truth like a hammer, leaving him nowhere left to run? Because let's be real, this isn't just about music anymore. This is reputation, legacy, and survival in a game where silence can be louder than any diss. So keep your eyes open, because the next move could change everything. What do you think is 50 Cent's endgame in all of this?